Well, good morning and welcome to another week of Journey with Christ. I'm your host, Mark Mitchell, a preaching minister at the Park Avenue Church of Christ here in Charleston, West Virginia. And I am joined as always by Steve Fox, a minister for over 50 years and counting. How's it going today?
I hope it's that counting, or you wouldn't have me around to badger anymore. It's going fine. I had a really nice weekend. I have one sister who's a couple years younger than I, and she and her husband came to the house, and they came to church with us Sunday. I don't get to see her very often. She used to live in Mansfield, Ohio. They live in Nashville now, so it's a little longer trip. But it was nice. It was nice being around her, even though she is kind of like me, and she doesn't understand all the time when it's her turn to talk and when it's my turn to talk. And when you get both of those things going at the same time, you know. But it was really nice to see them. They stayed for 4 days. And
well, good. Family has its moments.
Yes, it does. And I know lots of people who don't get along well with their siblings, and I'm just glad that my one sister and I get along. I have a brother. He's 17 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
And that was quite a shock. So we don't get to be together very much anyway, but he's just my clone of me, so when my sister's around Chris, it's like being around me.
So she doesn't visit both of you too often.
Yeah, she always takes the air out of her tires, so she can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Anyway, I know she won't be seeing this, but I just wanted to tell her thank you because we had a really nice weekend together.
Oh, good. Well, we're on our last parable, and we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to begin our discussion here on a very brief note about the parable of the wedding banquet in order to set up another little parable that sort of has a little bit to do. They're related to each other. Matthew 22, beginning in verse 1. Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused to come. Then he sent more servants and said, 'Tell those who have been invited that I've prepared my dinner. My oxen and fatted calf have been butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet.' But they paid no attention and went off, one to his field, another to his business. The rest seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. So go to the street corners, invite to the banquet anyone you find.' So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests."
This is one of the we'll stop right there. This is one of the parables that's
it's told twice, but two different.
And it's very, very close to the end of Jesus' ministry. So what he's probably doing here is wrapping this all up. All these parables that they told, and I never did sit down and count the number, but I apologize for that. But I have 14 stuck in my head for some reason. But all these parables that he told, he kind of covers them up and wraps it up with a nice little bow here by saying, and you got to remember, Matthew is the one who keeps saying Jesus is the king.
Yes.
In the kingdom of God, this is the way it is. Well, there's a bunch of people here who don't want to follow Jesus, and they don't want to follow the king's messenger, so they just make up excuses. I mean, you can read some of the excuses here and in other parables. I bought some cattle. I got to go see it.
Yeah.
The one I like the best is, I just got married and I can't come.
Yeah.
Well, did you decide that, or did your new wife decide that?
Well, so much of our world when we don't like what's going on, like with politics, well, that's not my president, or that's not my senator, or that's not my governor, or whatever it may be, we distance ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, these folks, without knowing it, because they evidently don't believe he is the Son of God.
No, they don't.
Because there's no way you could, if you think he's the Son of God, then you're an idiot if you say.
And you're going to be there.
Yeah.
You're going to the wedding feast.
Yeah.
And the great part about this parable is when all these people start making excuses, the Jesus, as he tells the story, says, go out and invite everybody. Now,
Yeah.
if everybody's invited, what could be a greater promise than that? If even I'm invited, everybody's invited.
Well, I love the guy. The parable says, invite all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good. And the
Go
wedding
out in the
halls,
highways and the byways. Go every place you can find. And when you find
Anybody.
somebody, invite them. Even you would be invited.
I would have made the list on that one.
I'm invited too.
Yeah.
And he says after they made all these excuses and they end up, rejecting Jesus and rejecting God, he says, well, just go find whoever you want to find and ask them. I don't often quote Blazing Saddles in our class, but there's a scene in Blazing Saddles where they're dividing up all the land, they're dividing up all the property, and the blacks and the Italians and there's a couple of more, and then the one guy says, but not the Irish. And the other guy goes, no, we're not doing it unless the Irish can be invited. And Slim Pickens goes, oh, everybody. And that's what I think about when I read this parable. God is saying,
Come on, everybody.
You mean there are no distinctions whatsoever, no examples that doesn't work? Anybody can come and be a part of the kingdom. And that's Matthew's message. Jesus is the head of the king. He's the king of the kingdom.
Some people take that everybody's welcome and abuse the privilege. I mean, we still yet have the same consequences to somebody who came without the proper attire.
Yes.
And then he's kicked out.
In the last part, he's kicked out. There's a group of ideas here in this parable where once he says everybody can be a part of this banquet, everybody, and we didn't talk very much about the banquet, but the wedding feast is Jesus marrying his bride.
That's right.
And anybody can be a part of that bride. Now, once we decide, I'm going to listen to this message, it's an amazing, amazing rule that I qualify. I can be a part of that. Why would you turn that down? That's why God was saying, what's going to happen to these people? And they said, well, these murderers, the king was angry and he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. He said, the wedding is ready, but those invited were not worthy. So go out. All right, everybody, bring them in.
Can you imagine, here you are, you've grown up a descendant of Abraham. Take it further back. Descendant of Adam, descendant of Noah, descendant of Abraham. Mm-hmm. And you are what you consider the chosen people, handpicked by God to be his people. Jesus comes along, and in his message to them, he reminds them, you've made a mess out of this thing. I was always coming, but you really made a mess out of this thing. And just like the parable, the son's about to be wed to his bride, and I'm inviting you to participate in this process, and you don't want anything to do with it.
And just when you and I think we've got this figured out, you run into a verse that says, go therefore to the thoroughfares, invite them to the marriage feast, as many as you can find, both bad and good. Well, that person can't be in the kingdom of God. Look at his past life. He's been in prison. He shot somebody one time. He robbed a bank, etc., etc., etc. He can't be there.
Nope.
And the church is made up of people that most of us would say, well, they can't be there. They can't be invited. They were never invited to be a part of the kingdom of God. And that little phrase, the bad and the good, that kind of knocks that down.
Who was it that said, I wouldn't be a member of any club that would have me?
Groucho Marx.
So, here you are. They'll even take me, Lord.
Yep, even me.
So,
and when we have that attitude, that makes it much clearer for us to treat other people. Because if we know that I don't deserve to be there either, but that guy that was in prison, or that guy who's been divorced 3 times, or whatever we want to put in the blank, those people are allowed to be invited to the kingdom.
I remember Kelly and I, after we shortly got married, she grew up in a different life than I did. The president inaugural was coming up. She gets an invitation.
This was Lincoln. Oh.
I will tell Kelly that you said that. That wasn't a slam to me. It was Kelly.
That was just too easy, Mark. Don't throw me any of those softballs again, okay?
But anyway, I thought to myself, I got an invite to the inaugural. Well, you got the invite, but I get to go. I'm your one. I'm the other.
You get to go.
Plus one.
You grabbed a hold of their coattails and went flying through the door.
That is, and I can imagine. I knew how privileged I felt to get to go. We didn't go, but to have gone.
Yeah.
But just being invited was something. This should have been the same kind of reaction. Really, Lord, we can come?
Yep, you're right. Exactly right.
But
like a little kid at Christmas. Here's a present, here's a gift that's, you can't explain it to people, but there it is. I'm invited to be a part of it.
I guess, and I this is not intended to be preaching.
I'll make that decision.
But it bothers me sometimes when people don't see the privilege of being there and then never show up.
Preach it, brother.
It's kind of, how lucky are you to been invited? Because we didn't get invited because of our merit. Mm-hmm. We lost that one. All we got is the generosity of the host. That's all we've got. The grace of the host.
That one phrase is so admirable and amazing, and whatever word you want to put in there. Invite them when they are found both bad and good.
Yep.
Man, if we were writing the Bible, we would not put that phrase
No,
in there.
we would have said, hey, you sure you want to do that?
Yeah, invite the good people.
Somebody needs to make sure there's always got to be a monitor at the door.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of like those
A doorman.
Those clubs, nightclubs that bouncer will be outside.
Bouncer, yeah.
He'll be outside. You can come in. Oh no, I'm sorry, you're ugly. You stay out here. So
I've been there before.
well, I understand. That's how
I have never one time had a fight with a bouncer. Not once. I can't recall one.
They were always too big for me to think about.
He wraps all his parables he wraps up in this parable that says God is the head of the kingdom and you're invited to be part of it. Just imagine if you went to Ireland or you went to someplace in Africa and everybody was totally different than you. And you moved into the neighborhood and nobody liked you, everybody was prejudiced against you. That'd be awful. Well, here there's kind of the same thing with the guests at the wedding feast. They're good and bad. There are all kinds of different people, except in this case, the Jews have been God's special people for a long time, and they don't want anybody else to be a part of that.
Nope.
So they're hit right between the eyes when Jesus says, this guy said, invite them all in.
Yeah, you've lost, you can't come in now.
Mhm.
Or those of you who've decided I'm not worthy, you lose the privilege.
The king was angry, and he sent his troops and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. There's a whole lot of
That's a
information.
prophecy there,
Yeah, there's
a
a
little
great
too,
prophecy there. But what you said a little bit ago is right. They should have appreciated the fact that they were invited, and they shouldn't have been making a bunch of excuses. People, even today, make all kinds of excuses when they understand the love of God, and He's invited you to be a part of that amazing kingdom that He set up, and then you say, I don't want that.
I'm not interested.
No. There are other things in this world that are a whole lot more important than that.
And Satan has gotten really good at playing a shell game with the nut and or the little ball, whatever they put in those little nuts.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking for the next best, greatest experience. Keep hoping that it will measure up, and it never does. And so, if you would turn your Bibles to Matthew chapter 25, we're going to conclude with this little story which sort of ties in with this. It's the sheep and the goats. Beginning in verse 31. When the Son of Man comes in His glory and all the angels with Him, He will sit on His glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before Him, and He will separate the people one from another as shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on His right and the goats on His left. Then the King will say to those on His right, Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Now, I'm not going to read that entire one because it is quite long.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have here is a conclusion at the end of the wedding feast, similar to the one we have in our parable that I didn't read, where he finds someone who's does not have on his wedding clothes, and he's thrown out into the lake of fire, so to speak. In fact, I think that's what it does say.
Yes, it does. Prepared for Satan and his angels.
Right. What we have here, much like we talked about in Revelations, you choose, and then you live with the choice. It's not, that's the part that's always been kind of frustrating to me, Steve. Everybody wants to look at their love and devotion toward Christ as a merit-based system, when Jesus clearly has pointed out, you're never going to earn this.
This list is not what saves people. This list is what people do after they're saved.
Right. Well,
me giving a sandwich to a couple guys doesn't put me in the kingdom of heaven.
No.
But if I am in the kingdom of heaven and I see somebody who needs fed, then that should be taken care of.
What it does is it changes our heart, which then changes our actions.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't have said it better.
And when we're thinking that the actions are going to be the merit that gets me in, we've got the wagon before the horse.
Let me try to explain in my own weak way what this parable does not say. This parable does not say a judgment. He says he's going to judge the nations.
Yeah.
He's going to judge all the nations.
Yeah.
That's about everybody. And when when that judgment happens, there's not going to be a line of people that, as far as you can see, where God's going to say, okay, you're over here, and you're on this side, and you're on. Can you imagine how awful it would be to be in line and not knowing? That's not what the parable teaches. Is there's going to be a separation between the good and the bad, between the people who did what I asked you to do and people who didn't. There's going to be a distinction between the good and the bad, and nobody's going to make that distinction except the shepherd.
Well, that's what I love about Paul when he writes in 1 Corinthians, when we have been sealed with the Holy Spirit, sort of like we have a signet ring, much like it's talked about in Revelation. We have this mark on ourselves. We have been set apart. We've been made holy.
And who makes that decision? The
God.
guy who lives next door to you?
No.
No, thank goodness.
That's right.
Just look at your neighborhood or look at your church and say, would I want that guy to be in charge of my eternal destiny? I don't think you'll find too. I wouldn't even let Susie decide that.
No.
No, because on a
daily
day,
basis it could change.
Daily, how about hourly?
Well, okay.
Yeah, but the point is not that he's going to say, okay, you're a goat, you're a sheep, blah blah blah. Oh, I should have said blah blah blah. You're a goat and you're a sheep, and you go on this side and you go on that. The point is, Jesus is the one who makes that division, and it'll probably be something in the twinkling of an eye. You know, he can separate the good and the bad.
Yep.
And he can separate the sheep from the goats.
And he can look at him and tell you, much in his description there when he said, you know, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. What was the other? I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And when I was a stranger, you invited me in. And when I was in prison, you visited me. When I was sick, you looked after me. And the great response is, well, Lord, when did we do that for you?
Yeah.
Well, when you look at my children and you treat them the same as me, as you should me, that is the service, the obedience, the kingdom attitude that allows you to be part of this kingdom. I'm not saying that is exactly right. It's not that you get to be part of the kingdom, but that's the attitude of this kingdom.
Yeah.
If you're in this kingdom, then there's an attitude that comes with it.
When you start looking at the meritorious acts, I used to subscribe to this magazine. It was an excellent magazine called Leadership, and they had the best cartoons in there. And one of them, there's a whole line of people like we would normally envision at judgment. There's a whole line of people, and all the way up front, this guy hears everybody clapping and applauding and just going crazy. And the guy in the front of the row turns around and looks at everybody else and says, Wednesday nights don't count. Now, that's not the way judgment's going to happen. You're not going to have people separated. Okay, you go over there and you go over there. The point is, Jesus is going to make that. Nobody makes an eternal decision about somebody's destiny unless it's Jesus of Nazareth.
And you know the sad part.
Judge.
The sad part about it is, I get the funny cartoon. Wednesdays don't count. But even having that mindset, okay, but that joke is only funny if you think, well, yeah, but some things do count. Well, who knows what counts? Have you got the right list for what counts and what doesn't count? I mean,
I haven't missed church for 25 years.
Yeah.
You haven't missed church for 25 years? Oh, no, I haven't gone, but I haven't missed it. I haven't missed it for 25 years.
You know, that is because if we read this parable that Jesus gives, which it's not really a parable, it could be a prophecy, but it could be both. You could read that list and, okay, here we got to write these things down. This is what we got to do. We got to give food to people who are hungry. We got to give drink to those who are thirsty. We got to give something to the sick, and there's this whole list of things that has to be done, or otherwise we're not getting in.
And I think that all starts with the process of knowing who we are. When he says here, you did this to me, if you did it to anybody else, the least of the people walking around here on this hill right now, if you do that to them, that's just like doing it to me. So that will help you in your decision about how you're going to treat people. If you know that that's Jesus, that's not the guy that's sitting down in the corner, homeless, and ask you for a sandwich. That's not who that is. That's Jesus sitting there.
The most amazing part of what we began with in this parable is everyone's invited. Mm-hmm. There is no privilege. See, that's why for me sometimes this double-edged or double-sided coin is difficult to put into practice, put into place. Because you've got the one instance where there's nothing you can do to deserve to come. It's only by God's generosity that you are invited. You didn't do anything to get in there.
Yeah.
But once you're in, and you want this, you want to say, God, I want to be part of your kingdom, then just like anybody who wants to be part of these United States that lives over and wherever, from a foreign country, they come into this nation. Well, they can't do they hear they're free, but that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. There's guidelines. And if you don't do those guidelines, what do they do with you? They deport you.
They toss you out.
Anybody was welcome, but,
That's a big word, isn't it?
Yeah. Statue of Liberty, what does it say? Give me
you're tired, you're poor.
That's right.
Yearning to be free.
Yeah.
Let me throw my arrogance out the window here just for 1 minute and tell you a real short story. This happened 10 years ago in Nicaragua when Susie and I were working at the clinic. And we were out in the middle of nowhere. We didn't even have any buildings. These people built stuff out of carpet and tar paper, and that was their hospital. So there was this lady in there talking to another woman who I could tell was a patient, and she said, "Steve, this lady wants to talk to a doctor who's female." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "Would you take him down to Lloyd?" I said, "Yeah." So I just took her by the hand and I said, "Will you follow me?" And we walked in. We didn't walk more than, 40 yards, 50 yards to get to the other tent. And as we were walking down through there, I said, "Are you having trouble?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why have you come to the clinic?" And she said, "I have AIDS." And I'm holding this lady's hand, and I wanted so bad to open my hand and let go.
And run.
And get out of there.
Yep.
I've never even met somebody who has HIV. I've never even met somebody who has AIDS, and here I was. And then it hit me, and I'm not saying this was me. It was probably God himself. It just hit me. This isn't this lady who has AIDS who's walking down through here with me. This is Christ.
That's right.
This is Jesus. And if I treat her any differently than I would treat Jesus, then it goes back to this parable. You saw all these things that needed to be done. You didn't do any of them. And I'm sure that every person in our church or other churches as well, if they found themselves in that situation where they were holding hands with somebody who had AIDS, they would have done the same thing that I did.
We want to, with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind, believe that we're capable of that. And it takes a mindset, though, Steve, to pull that off.
Yeah, it does.
Because you know, you have to say, Lord, whatever you want.
Help me.
Because inside of me, there's a guy that wants to throw that woman's hand clean out of my hand and ask her, what are you doing?
And get away from me.
Yeah, you unclean. You should have come into this room screaming, I'm unclean, I'm unclean, you know. But no. Well,
I got to see her 2 times after that. The next year and the year following that, she came to the clinic, and some real doctors, not me, some real doctors put her on some kind of medication. I guess she's doing okay. But
well, it is a...
one of these days I might get to meet her again.
That's right.
And I'll hold her hand.
Yeah.
Whether Susie likes it or not.
Oh, well, that will conclude our parables that Steve and I have done. We're going to do a couple little short ones. We're not going to really start a series at this moment. But what we are going to do is here in a few weeks probably transition to a different format. Because unless you're aware of it, we're going to be, hopefully soon, we're going to be starting back on our Wednesday night Bible class, in which this was intended as a substitute for the Wednesday night Bible class. Being as we'll be doing the Wednesday night Bible class, there's not a whole lot of need for us to continue doing a series or something of that nature. But we are going to do, with Steve, possibly myself, and maybe even ask Sean to do a weekly devotional. 10,
Yeah, I
15
noticed he shows up like every 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to get him here more often.
Well, we'll get him here more often. We'll do a rotation.
As long as he doesn't want to take my job.
Yeah. Mine either.
No.
And there'll be 10, 15-minute little devotionals. If they're only 5 minutes, don't worry about it. And they're just intended to help you during the coming in the week, to assist you, so that because this life gets hard, I get discouraged sometimes. So it helps to have. It would be nice to have someplace to go, just to have a little pick me up to help me get through the daily grind. What do you think?
I think that sounds wonderful.
Well, look forward to seeing you next week as we do a couple little lessons. And you got anything else to share before we close out this week?
No, I was just sitting here thinking about something that I think would fit the description that you just gave.
Well, good.
And
the train's already. I can hear over here clickety clack. I think I can.
hey, now that's not fair, because I told you one time about my track coach in high school. He told me one time, he said, Steve, if I ever have a brain transplant, I'd like to have yours. And I said, well, thank you, Mr. Wolf. And he said, yeah, I'd like to have one that's never been used before.
We use very little.
But we promise that we will use what brains we have to make this interesting.
We'll do
to
the
our
best
audience.
we can. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, on behalf of Steve and I, you going to wave this week?
I'm going to wave twice.
Oh, okay. I'm waiting on you because I remember.